do what thou wilt. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 23 of 7 Minutes with the Magus, featuring your host, Omega Logion, Magus of the Eon of Maat. In this episode, we're going to dive into chapter 2 of Liber MA vel Laudum. Now, as you recall, Liber MA is an evolution of the syllables and structure and words of Liber L, the Book of the Law. In chapter 2 of Liber L, it is the voice of the god Hadit, which is another spelling of Bahadit or Horus the Bedetite. In Liber Ma, chapter 2 is the voice of Amun, the concealed. Now, Amun and Hadit have some similarities in terms of them being the point of view, but Amun is the greater conception of the axis of the whole universe, really. He's the still point around which everything else revolves. So you'll find some similarities to Hadit and some verbiage that's the same, but quite a lot of the message is taking on a different aspect, because now we're talking about Amun, the king of the gods. So it starts out with Mut, the tidings of Amun. Come all you and see the eagle that has not yet been concealed. I, Amun, am the complement of Mut, my bride. Such has God intended, for stars are aflame in my house. So just like Hadit is the complement of Nuit, and they're sort of a married couple, Amun and Mut are also a married couple. They are two of the three members of the Theban triad. He is essentially a father figure, and her name literally means mother. Don't forget that Nuit also was a mother of Isis and Nephthys and Osiris. But that aspect of Nuit isn't really played up in the Book of the Law, whereas the aspect of Mut as mother is made very, very important in Liber Ma. Nevertheless, Amun does have some similarities, but he also has some differences. In one part, he tells us exactly how to spell his name. For example, as I am perfect, so is not, and I counter the one of the fool, and I adjust for the 8 as one is 8. This is crucial, for they are one indeed. The madman and the priest are thus of me, for they hide another secret. I am the hanged man and the skeleton. Thus 7, as my bride is of 7. Well, of course, the hanged man is Atu 12, and the skeleton is death, which is Atu 13. 12 plus 13 is 25, and 2 plus 5 is 7. So that's not too deeply hidden. But he's also telling us about the letters of those cards, which are Mem and Nun. And then backing up, the madman and the priest are the fool and the hierophant. And their letters are Aleph and Vav. And if you take Aleph, Mem, Vav, and Nun, you spell the name Amun. Now, whereas Hadit said, I am alone, there is no God where I am, Amun says this, Amun alone, this is the God who I am. Now, I am who am, that might remind you of something you've heard before, but Amun's the real deal. Amun is a benevolent king of the gods. Amun is also represented in a serpentine form in this passage. I am the royal cobra coiled about your tree. In my spiral there is joy. If I flare out mine hood, I and my maut are one. If I bring in mine hood and strike with venom, then is captured all the earth, and I and the earth are one. So some of the verbiages change, but the essential idea of this rising of the Kundalini and the connection of yin and yang, the connection between the royal couple in their royal marriage, that idea is still essentially the same. There's a whole section on the feasts, as you would expect. There's a section about the veil. Now, in the Book of the Law, that veil was black, and it was just to be abrogated, right? Here it's completely different. There is a veil intact. Such is the veil of my consort Isis. It is the veil of terror and of nature's depth. This is one with me. Pull back the velvet curtain of the mysteries, this veil of Isis, the virtuous one. Pure Isis at your service, she is well, and she will reward you now and hereafter. So sometimes this veil of Isis is a term used for the veil of the universe, right? And pulling back that veil to understand how the universe actually works was one of the driving ambitions of these early philosopher-physicists, right? Well, Amun is saying, we're not talking about the veil of the modest woman anymore. We're talking about the veil of Isis. Pull it back and she will reward you. In another passage, instead of talking about deem ye not of change, ye shall be as ye are or not other, he riffs on the I Ching. I, the book of change, it shall be as your guide and no other. And then it goes on with an entire passage about the I Ching. So he turns this idea of nothing's going to change, you're not going to be anything different, to the whole idea of change and embracing it and talking about the book whose title means the book of change, right? So that's sort of an evolution of that concept that Amun is taking forward into this eon. He talks about breath and how important it is, sitting in zazen. He talks about, of course, a version of the cipher. And then he concludes the chapter with, "O see, the plow is pointing to one end. Look up to this, for there is one at the extreme among signs and among gods. Look up to this, O my seer, thy sextant shall align the stars. They shall call it by name, sixfold, cryptic, colorful, Kamea of the sun, and the infinite light, 414. The end of the tidings of Amun, thanksgiving and kinship to the seer of the lovely star." Thus concludes Chapter 2 of Liber MA, and thus concludes Episode 2 of this series, this trilogy about the 3 chapters. I hope you'll join me for the last one, which I'll do next. And until then, don't forget, love is the law.